Am I the antagonist for getting rid of my deceased father's car against my brother's wishes? My sister and I, 19 years old females, are twins. We have an older brother, 37 years old. You probably noticed the age difference. My brother is a very stereotypical only child who has always gotten his way, and our family has enabled his bad behavior his entire life. No matter how inconvenient something may be for others, he has to have his way, or he pouts and throws adult tantrums. For example, our mom died last year. My sister and I got the funeral arranged, but he didn't come to help until we told him we were going with a cheaper casket. It was still nice, but it worked better for our budget. He cried about it until we got her a nicer one that put us back a few thousand. No, he didn't make up the difference. Our dad actually passed away 2 months after our birth. He was repairing his first vehicle with my brother prior to his death. Now that car has sat in the garage for about 20 years. It's a 2-car garage, but the lawnmower and snowblower take up one part, while the broken car takes up another. My brother has insisted this entire time that he'll fix it. Our mom wanted to get rid of it. He threw a fit, so she kept it. After mom died, my sister wanted to get rid of it so one of us can finally park our cars in the garage. Brother said he'd try to find someone to work on it. Nothing ever came of that. I'm leaving for college, and my sister had been pressured by my brother to stay living at the house. We had actually chosen to sell our portion as we didn't want to stay living there, but my brother refused to sell his portion. He was threatening to divorce his wife if she didn't move into the house with him, so my sister ended up staying so that wouldn't happen. Again, everyone enables him. I want to at least get rid of the car before leaving, and my friend offered to haul it for free. I no longer talk to my brother, but for this I let him know and told him it was unlikely the car is repairable. It's taking a spot for my sister's car, and I'll give him 60 days to find a place to store it or else it's gone. He flipped out on me but also got my sister involved. Due to his constant whining and texting, she is now telling me I should have just shut my mouth and let the car stay because he's going to keep pouting to her. Am I the antagonist here? I think the best course of action here would be to get a lawyer and a real estate agent involved to force the sale of the home. Just because your brother owns 50% of it doesn't mean he can override everything. It's important for you and your sister to stand up for yourselves and not let him call the ambulance whenever things don't go his way. Giving him a fair chance to move the car is more than reasonable, and if he doesn't, it's on him. Maybe consider towing it to your brother's house or a storage facility if he doesn't act. Good luck, op! Am I the antagonist for not warning my partner about my ass rag? Okay, context. My wife is weird about butt stuff. I'm not talking about sexual butt stuff. That's obviously personal and up to the individual. I mean her unwillingness to acknowledge that anything comes out of butts or that people even have buttholes. When we bought our house, I wanted to install a bidet, but my wife was against it. I told her she doesn't have to use it, but she said just seeing it would gross her out. I mentioned not feeling clean just from wiping with paper and she didn't understand. Not everyone has naturally hairless anuses that barely require wiping. She asked if I could find an alternative. I said I could use wet wipes, but they're not flushable. None of them are, by the way, so they'd have to go in the trash. She didn't like the idea of poopy things in the trash can and told me to figure something else out that she didn't have to know about. So, onto my ass rag. I took an old towel, tore it up, and installed a discreet hook behind the toilet to hang the rag. It's completely hidden. The way our bathroom is set up, we only have one. The sink is right next to the toilet. So I'm able to wet the rag, clean up, wash it in the sink, and hang it back up. I swap it out a couple times a week. Gross? Maybe, but I figured that's my business since my wife did not want to hear about my butthole cleaning habits. Recently, my wife and I were showering together and she forgot to bring in a washcloth for herself. I don't use one. I use a sisal pouch with bar soap. I offered to hop out and grab her a washcloth, but she said, "No, don't worry about it, I'll just use yours," and reached for my ass rag. I said, "You don't want to use that." She asked why. I said, "Just trust me." She kept pushing. So I came clean about my ass rag. She was horrified, started dry heaving, and kicked me out of the shower. Apparently she had been using it as a washcloth for years whenever she forgot hers, which is often. What I don't get is how she thought that was my washcloth because A, it's hidden behind the toilet, and B, she knows I don't use a washcloth. We got into an argument. From my perspective, it was obvious that my ass rag wasn't a washcloth. All bets are off when you use someone else's feces without asking, and her butthole hang-up is interfering with my personal hygiene. From her perspective, I violated a clear boundary she set years ago, and I'm just an overall gross person. I did apologize, but I was upset and my apology wasn't really sincere. I'm sleeping on the couch right now to try and give her some space, but I'd like to know if I owe her a more sincere apology over this ass rag fiasco. I'm really not sure, and her reaction has me thinking that maybe I actually am disgusting, and I'm lacking the perspective to see it. But I also don't think her butthole aversion is normal, and it's the main reason I ended up resorting to the ass rag solution in the first place and not telling her about it. I totally get where you're coming from. It's a tricky situation when you want to bring up something someone doesn't want to hear about. And yeah, the whole ass rag situation is pretty unfortunate, but at least it seems like it wasn't causing any major issues since she was using it without complaint. It's tough when there's such a strong aversion to butt-related topics, especially if there are no plans for kids. Maybe a bidet could be a good compromise. This scenario is seriously the best Am I the Antagonist read I've come across. The absurdity is just too much. Not the antagonist at all. It's hard to understand why she'd be upset about something hidden in such an inconspicuous spot. And hey, who wouldn't want a bidet at home? It just makes things so much simpler. It's a bit unfair if she's dictating how you take care of your hygiene. Everyone should have the freedom to choose their own methods. She should be more considerate and not just focus on her own preferences. Hopefully you two can find a solution that works for both of you. Am I the antagonist for expressing expectations for a stay-at-home parent? Sahm? A little background. My 36-year-old male girlfriend, 35-year-old female, and I live together and have a 25-month-old son. I work a salaried position making just enough to cover the cost of living and caring for the child. It's mostly a 45-hour week, so I usually have plenty of time to help at home. Things I maintain ownership of in the house are income bills, family alarm clock. I get up early for work and gently wake her, help get the kiddo up. Cleaning, laundry, errands, grocery shopping, pharmacy, doctor appointments, etc. Meals are 50-50-ish on who prepares. I do fresh, she does pre-packaged frozen. Planning for any activity we will do outside the house, I feel like I do as much as I can to be a good dad and partner. I am growing fairly resentful of our situation. She kinda strong-armed her way to be a stay-at-home mom without my agreement to that, and is now either lost in the stay-at-home thing or being manipulative to maintain it. I want her to go back to work, at least part-time, for a multitude of reasons including financial and physical mental health. After all, it won't do the child any good for his mother to be stay-at-home if we are broke, and she leaves herself to deteriorate health-wise. My expectations feel pretty normal to me, but I am obviously biased. I want her to go back to work, but if she absolutely will not, is it fair to expect her to wake in the morning without my assistance, and before the child, stay awake and present with the child while I am at work, except for nap time when she takes a 2-hour nap each day, maintain some level of cleanliness in the house during the day, prepare fresh food for her and the child while I'm at work, allow 1 day a week for me to catch a nap or sleep in, watch after her health, be willing to discuss the execution of responsibilities openly? This just boiled over for me. I took a business trip for 2 days and came home to find the fresh produce and meat I bought beforehand untouched. So the kid had been eating junk, the house a mess, and I got mildly ill, so I took the day off. She told me I could sleep in, then proceeded to sleep on the sofa. When I got out of bed, I find an unattended 2-year-old and several of the baby-proof items, think gates and cabinet locks, unsecured. I expressed that this was not okay calmly and evenly, to which she responded, "Oh, just stop," and went back to bed. TL Doctor. My stay-at-home mom girlfriend sleeps while in charge of caring for our child while I work, feeds our child only pre-packaged foods, and sleeps 10 hours daily. If I take a keto day to rest, she expects that I am the sole parental unit and sleeps even more instead of letting me rest and using the dad JR bonding time to catch up on things. Am I the asshole for expecting to be able to compromise on sleep responsibilities, care of the child? Is the setup described really just normal, and I'm being an by not being happy with it? Not the antagonist. It sounds like she may be struggling with depression or PPD. While sleeping a lot can be a symptom, neglecting child safety isn't excusable. Perhaps suggesting therapy and medical help could be a good first step, along with avoiding a transactional approach, but rather expressing concern for her well-being. Counseling as a couple might also be beneficial for working on communication. Am I the antagonist for telling my sister that I never asked to be an aunt? I was outside bathing when my sister comes outside with her child, my niece, 2-year-old. She sets a bath of water and then leaves my niece there with the water to bathe herself. She was there just playing in the water and splashing it on herself. I don't usually say anything to her as they are not my children, and I can't tell her how to parent her children. I mind my own business usually, and try not to start an argument. The thing is, she left the child outside with me, and I'm of the opinion that her mother should be there actively bathing her. But instead, she usually leaves them to bathe themselves while she goes and lays in bed. When my sister came back after some time, I let a comment slip asking if she shouldn't have been the one out here bathing her child, and what if something had happened? She said, "Well, her aunt is out here to watch her." I let slip that I never asked to be an aunt. She paused for a bit before trying to explain to me how, if it was my child, she would do the same thing for me. But I reminded her that I'm never having children anyway, so that doesn't apply to me, and she said okay. Later in the evening, I heard her muttering to herself about what I said to her. She was obviously upset and irate at me. She even went as far as to keep her children away from me in my room. It's a usual thing for her children to bang on my room door to purposely annoy me, among other troublemaking, and she usually doesn't do or say anything about it. But anytime we butt heads regarding her once again trying to force responsibility for her kids on me, and I push back, she goes out of her way to keep them away from me. It's ironic how I wish she would have stepped in and kept them away from me all the other times they were causing trouble. She's not spiting me by keeping her spoilt kids away from me. I wish it had continued, but she usually stops being irate right when she needs something from me. Even so, what I said was the truth, and I'm not sorry for saying it. I never asked to be an aunt, and it seemed like she just kept trying to force the responsibility of caring for her children on me in various other instances throughout the years. So I felt like it was necessary for her to finally hear this and get it through her head that I don't want the responsibility of caring for her children. I am not obligated, nor do I have the capacity for it, as previous instances have shown. She has this bad habit of never asking, just up and leaves her children with you for hours at a time, and leaves her phone so you can't call her, etc. So, am I the asshole for telling my sister I never asked to be an aunt? Not the antagonist. Your sister shouldn't assume you'll take responsibility for her kids without asking. It's not okay for her to leave them with you for hours on end. Bringing up the issue after her past behavior like abandoning her children with you was the right move. Am I the antagonist for not wanting to plan one day and having my husband make the plans? Every birthday and holiday comes down to me planning, even for my birthday and Mother's Day. This past birthday I, age 35, went and got my own cake for my kids and me, a day after since I didn't even get a card. My husband, age 36, didn't even say happy birthday. Once again this year I have to plan Mother's Day. Last year I just took the kids, all four, out for the day alone to different playgrounds parks. Then my sister invited us down to hang at her place. So my husband had the entire day to himself and didn't even take over the potted flowers I got for his mother. It sat on our porch and died, then I tossed it out. Now this year all of a sudden, he wants to spend it with our moms. I was a bit unsure about it at first, but it is what it is. I just don't feel like planning a thing. So my mom and sister also invited us to have dinner together. Well, a huge fight happened when he wouldn't even ask his mom her plans so we could try to see her too. I know I was a bit upset about spending the day traveling between the two, but if that was his plan, then I needed to just let my mom know if we would be there for dinner so she could pick up enough food. We had agreed prior that Mother's Day would be more for me than our mothers since they have graduated to grandmothers, and we would stop by to give gifts and see them but not hang out. We could do that another day if we wanted to hang out more. My oldest is 11, and I know I won't have many more Mother's Days that he wants to hang out with me, so I want to soak them up. Now my husband is saying his mom doesn't have many more left, and he wants to spend them with her. If he was actually close with her, I wouldn't mind, but I don't even think he texts her once a week, let alone ever calls her. My mother and I are not close at all, but we talk on the phone at least once every 2 weeks, maybe every week. Then he complains that he has to plan something extravagant to show that they love and appreciate me. It's not enough that they love me and will be with me on Mother's Day, that I'm expecting some extra awesome show of excellence that they need to prove I'm an awesome mother and for me to feel special. I have never expected any of this, and for years I have said just planning a picnic or a hike or going to some local places we have never been. Just something that made me feel thought of, I guess, is what I'm looking for. But maybe I am wrong in wanting this and should just know that he's not the type to plan anything and do it myself. For Father's Day and his birthday, don't stress yourself out planning anything elaborate. Just a simple acknowledgement and having the kids show their love would mean the world. If he asks why you're not planning anything, just repeat his own words back to him. Treat yourself to a movie and lunch instead. Take care of yourself and keep things simple. Lighten your load and make time to pamper yourself all year round. Don't wait on anyone else to celebrate you. You're not the asshole for wanting some appreciation, so go spend time with your sister and kids if your husband can't figure it out on his own. Would I be the asshole if I told my mother-in-law to stop talking about my pregnancy? I, female 23, found out beginning of March that I am pregnant. My partner, male 25, and I are not ready or financially stable enough to keep the baby, and we are leaning in the direction of adoption. I had a very traumatic miscarriage when I was younger, and that is why I have decided not to abort. I come from an extremely religious family, so my parents were really disappointed when I told them I'm pregnant, not married yet. But overall they have agreed to respect whatever decision my partner and I decide to make. His mom, however, I love his mom, dad, and sister so much, they immediately made me feel like I was a part of their family, and have been so loving and kind. I call his parents mom and dad, and I've grown quite close to his mom, hence why I call her my mother-in-law. When we told her about the pregnancy, we informed her that we are going to give the baby up for adoption, and put emphasis on this. We also asked her not to tell anyone about the pregnancy until we had a chance to phone and tell his dad, who was not there at the time. She immediately ignored both of these requests and without warning us, phoned his grandmother, put her on speaker, and then said that we had an exciting announcement to make, forcing my boyfriend and me to tell the grandmother that I'm pregnant. Then mother-in-law and grandmother started excitedly talking about how they've been waiting so long for a grandchild, and this was such a blessing. My boyfriend and I were pretty annoyed with this but chose to say nothing. Mother-in-law suggested we wait for Mother's Day, when we are going to her place for lunch, and then we could tell his dad in person. We were happy with this plan and trusted that she would keep quiet until Sunday. We were wrong. We received a message from his dad that mother-in-law had told him we needed to speak to him on Sunday, so now his dad was stressing, thinking there was something seriously wrong. We decided to phone him instead of waiting because he was stressing, and so telling him in person was ruined by her. She has also been sending me several messages about how excited she is to finally be a grandmother, and she's so excited for the baby to arrive, pressuring me to keep the baby. She's acting like we are keeping the baby and brushing aside the adoption. She's making me feel very uncomfortable and upset because this was already a hard enough decision to make. I have always wanted to be a mom and now I can't, and it hurts like hell. Would I be the asshole if I told her to stop talking about being a grandmother and pressuring me to keep the baby? To answer some questions before you judge. 1. She cannot financially support us in order to let us keep the baby. She's barely surviving financially herself, so that's not an option. 2. I am receiving no financial support from my family either. 3. Why? I unfortunately had to quit my job due to health reasons, and now while I look for better work, my boyfriend is covering everything, and we're barely managing to pay for groceries. Not the antagonist. It's commendable that you're being realistic about not being able to raise the baby. The next steps are going to be tough, but you have to stand your ground firmly. If you feel like you might be going too far, you're probably on the right track. It's important to set boundaries with your family and be prepared to go no contact until after the child is adopted. Why should you have to be the one dealing with this alone? Your BF needs to step up and address his mother too. It's not fair for you to shoulder all the blame. Just tell mother-in-law that you're proceeding with adoption and ask her to stop spreading news of the pregnancy. It's better to address this now and clear the air. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.